The Invisible Man was written and directed by Lee Wannell or Lee Wannell. I still don't know how to pronounce that. The writer behind a bunch of James Wan movies from Saw to Insidious. He also directed Insidious Chapter 3, which despite negative reviews, I really don't think it's that bad from my memory, that is. He put out Upgrade 2 years ago, which surprised many, including myself. His ability to make the best out of a limited budget using technologies at his disposal. He was able to tell the story uniquely effective, and here he comes with The Invisible Man. And this is for sure his best work yet. The Invisible Man is an adaptation of the novel of the same name and also a reboot of the series in the 1930s. It tells a story about a woman played by Elisabeth Moss who escaped from an abusive relationship before the man Adrian has found a way to be invisible and haunt her and the people around her. There are a lot to like about this movie. For one, the atmosphere captured is absolutely amazing. From the first shot of how the title cards come up on screen to the score and the sound effects. There are points where it gets loud and you expect it in a horror score, but every time, I guess you can call it a jump scare, Lee has earned it by carefully setting up the suspense and then keep on building it after the release. It doesn't let you out that easily. The score is made by Benjamin Wallfisch, the guy who did Blade Runner 2049 with Hans Zimmer 3 years ago and then the two It movies remakes, though he likes to go over the top sometimes with sound and synth when it comes to horror, making it just a little bit too painful to listen to by itself. He is very good at accompanying his music with the picture, and The Invisible Man is another It for me, where the score worked really well when you're watching the movie, but when you're listening to it, it lost a lot of punch to it. And just by the way, while I was listening to the score on YouTube, I stumbled across this comment which cracked me up, and I kind of sort of agree with him a little bit. I would argue Blade Runner 2049 is very listenable though. So I walked into this movie expecting a sci-fi thriller, and then the horror element kicked in early on, and I was really not expecting that. When it comes to directing, this is a 120-minute horror film, but very well paced. Everything seems like they're where they are supposed to be. Elisabeth Moss gave out another fantastic performance, and what Lee did with this one really made me excited throughout the runtime. And I found myself nodding my head a lot while watching this movie, because when you have a material like this, right, it's so easy to just squander it, and at the same time you can do a lot of things with it that can be considered cliche. With a material like this, you can do rain, you can do fog, smoke, snow, powder, footsteps, blood, and a lot of more. There are a lot of things you can do with it, and we do get a lot of those, but the movie really knows how to manipulate the audience. The film leaves a lot to our imagination. The camera will pan to an empty corner of a room and then pan back as if there's someone standing there or sitting there. The way the shots are framed engage the audience to look for things in the background, for signs that the Invisible Man might be there. This is probably the movie where I looked more in the background than the subjects actually in focus, because it makes the imagination go to a very far place, and I really like that about it. In terms of writing, I really appreciate Lee Wannell's attempt at making the main character smart and sometimes ahead of the audience, and that's just so rare in horror movies nowadays. Elisabeth Moss's character is very smart and clever. Just when you think she's backed into a corner, she always finds a way to get out of it. But I think the writing as a whole just fell flat a little bit for me. There are a lot of things that are kind of left hanging. Some things don't make much sense if you really think about it. And besides the main character, everyone else could be fleshed out a lot more. In other words, I think there can be a lot more meat on the bone. The bone is very strong here. The directing, the vision, the paranoia. There's a fantastic coffee ground scene, the suspense, the performances, even the message, but the meat is just a bit thin. We never know exactly why Adrian, the psychopath, is so controlled and so obsessed with Cecilia. In fact, she asked that herself, why her? Like, what makes her so special? But the film never really explained that part of the characters. There's also a few supporting characters like her sister Emily, her friend who's a cop, and his daughter. While I like their dynamics, they didn't do much with the cop except for helping her regain her footing and then telling her she's crazy afterwards. Same thing goes to Emily. She didn't do much other than being a quite disposable character a movie like this kind of needs to have, and I understand that. In order to get from point A to point B in a story, some characters just need to be there to make decisions, and some small things here and there I would do differently. An Uber driver, a $5 million subplot, a Chinese restaurant where I would add some action to make it more exciting. Other than that, The Invisible Man is a very well crafted horror film with great music, directions, and performances that earn every single scare. This is a very suspenseful film that utilizes the most powerful tool a film has: the audience's imagination and paranoia. I'm going to give The Invisible Man a B+. thank you so much for watching, and I'll come back with the monthly wrap up real quick, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.